Welcome back once again, ready to enter the Matrix with my fellow most favorite avatar in the entire world, Nikolai.
Hi, everyone.
And, you know, every time we do these conversations, mostly, to be fair, it's always about me and it's about whatever's currently going on in my life that I'm seeing through the lens of the Matrix, or whatever is just top of mind at the moment through other people that I'm around, their relationships, their struggles. And one of the things I wanted to go into today was about information and how how do we deliver information as avatars to others. And
Mm,
so where I wanted to start the conversation with was like what makes an avatar or soul ready to receive or hear information. And to clarify the point,
yeah,
we run into people all the time where we could see somebody and we clearly know what to do. We know what
yep,
their problem is. We know what would likely solve their
yeah,
problem. And yet sometimes people are completely unwilling to listen, hear, or they just don't care, and they maybe they want to stay in their pain. So that's the preface for this is
yeah.
what makes an avatar or soul ready to receive information from another or just open to hearing it versus not.
Excellent question. And it's funny. I had a very joking conversation with a friend yesterday about this topic, even though it wasn't the topic.
It's always the topic at this point, Nikolai. I just know it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're
exactly. And one thing I said was, you cannot help someone until they want to solve the problem. So the biggest thing, somebody needs to actively seek solution or seek change in their life. Then they are open to hearing. Otherwise, it's just gonna it's not gonna land. It's just gonna be a waste of energy. And one of the one of the important parts of this journey that you're on, I'm on, many people on this planet are on, that we call awakening or synchronizing this body with our soul and spirit, or with our consciousness, whichever vocabulary you prefer to use here. Um, as you connect to the soul and spirit, you connect to that quantum computer that is basically consciousness. And everybody talks about everything is one. Everything is one. And hence, when you synchronize with that field, you get access to infinite amount of information about anything and everything, about every person, about the planet, about countries, about timelines, about everything. And as you start getting access to that information, the first trap that people fall into is they start seeing everything, right? You meet a random person that you know nothing about. First time meeting them, you see everything about their life, and the first knee-jerk reaction is trying to save them. Is trying to help them. You see that they're gonna, I don't know, get into a car accident a day later, but you're taking away their evolution by trying to interject with the line of events. And actually, my partner Maxime had a very powerful and very important experience in his life on this topic. He has an older daughter, and because he sees everything, he saw that she will end up in some kind of fatal accident. And then the day came, and he knew it was going to be that day. And he was like, "Listen, don't go out with these friends, and don't sit in the car." And she, of course, was like, "Dad, you're crazy. Just get out of here." She goes out with her friends, gets in the car. The car gets into a really bad accident where basically her skull was crushed, her like jaw was like basically her face was destroyed. Like bones of her face were
oh wow.
destroyed, not just like scratches or cuts or whatever. And and he interjected energetically with what was supposed to unfold, and that was his way of learning of how things work on this planet. But the whole idea is, if we unpack that, he tried to prevent a very important evolutionary experience for her, and by the way, for himself, without realizing that there was a very, very, very important evolutionary experience for him going through that experience, ultimately giving his energetic capabilities. Uh, she fully healed. She actually looks like a supermodel, and you would never know that she was in an accident, which is basically impossible according to all the surgeons and whoever that worked on like stitching everything together and putting all the bones of her face together. It was like, if you just go to an average Western hospital, like high-end Swiss Western hospital, your face will still be, distorted after
Hmm.
such accident. You would never know she was in an accident. So, but there is, as people awaken, they start, and even before, it's funny because even before you got to that level of awakening, when you look, as you've presented your question, right? When you look at other people, it's so easy to see what they're supposed to do, and the reason it's easy to see what they're supposed to do just to resolve that problem, because we have no money in the game, so hence we're unbiased, and we get more biased if it's a person that becomes closer and closer to us, let's say our romantic partner and etc. Then we start adding our own distortion. But when it's a random friend that you see, like, I don't know, once in 6 months, it's so clear, because like you don't care what the outcome will be, you just want to help. So just to start wrapping this up, is as the rule is that you should never impose into anyone's life. So, and the way to navigate this, because everyone has free will, the first thing that everybody should do is like, hey, I have some insights for you. Uh, are you interested in learning those? So you basically you first ask if a person is willing to listen. And the funny thing, most people will say yes. And now you just got a permission. Versus if you start basically puking information or energy at another person without their request, you kind of breaking universal law, because they've never asked for anything from you. So you, from your knowing, you start imposing onto their life, you start imposing on their free will. And usually that works out pretty bad, because there's almost always a knee-jerk reaction. Well, physics or thermodynamics, whatever pressure you apply, the same pressure comes back. So usually a person starts defending themselves and not liking you, and etc. and etc. So to summarize that, usually, like, I see a lot and I see very deeply, similar to Maxime, and I share maybe 5-10%. And it took me a while to learn. That's number one. For that ability to see deeply into a person, the biggest lesson is not to interject with evolutionary experience, not to start playing a savior. And a lot of people have savior victim subpersonalities in them. So they like, oh, I see, I gotta save everyone. That's not how it works. And the second part, so first you're really become impartial, neutral observer, and the second part, you sense first into if that information should be shared, and if you feel like it should be shared, then the third part, you should ask for permission for that to be shared. And that's why the best situation is when somebody comes and asks for help. Then they're truly seeking and they're truly willing to receive. But that's not always the case as well. Some people are like, they say they want to solve the problem because like they already recognize the problem, and people probably gave them feedback and told them like, hey, you got to deal with this. And they're like, yeah, I'll solve it. So they go around asking for help. In reality, they're not willing to receive any help. And there are many people like that. So that's why you got to also look past the words. But at least if they ask, you start delivering them. So there's no breaking universal laws. There's no imposing. There's no projecting, and etc. And but then you'll notice if they're really willing to receive that. Uh, all these things I'm sharing are very important part of any kind of coaching practice, and that's what we've observed. We've had people ask what type of clients we work with, and it's interesting. Uh, there are like, let's say, three buckets. Bucket number one, hair on fire problem. Person is having really bad experience in a part of their life. I don't know, health, relationship, business, and etc. Those are the best because they're really wanting, like, if they got to us and they're willing to spend the money that we charge, that means it's a real problem that needs to be solved. Then there are people, the second category, people who've done well in life and they're, uh, or not, okay, it shouldn't be part of that definition. They're standing at a crossroads in life. Some done well, some done okay, some done shittily, but they're standing at the crossroads of a career, of a major relationship, business partnership, whatever it is. There's a major decision. What's the next business to build? I'm like getting ready to have family, but then I'm like having trouble to find a partner. I have a partner, but I'm not 100% sure if it's the partner to get married. Major decision. That's another entry point for our work. Those are willing to listen a little bit less, but they're willing to listen because they're like trying to navigate, they're trying to gain clarity, but they're skeptical. And the third category is people who have fuck you money buying all types of coaching and entertainment. And like they've done really well and they're curious. They have curiosity, which is like very important as well. And they're willing to invest capital in their curiosity to keep exploring this world and the universe. And of course, those have the highest level of skepticism and let's say the lowest level of retention or integration. But that's perfectly fine. So in the beginning, just because where Nikolai was at, we attracted more clients in a third category, and it was really fun to work with them. But the part that was not as much fun is observing the results because the
Mm.
integration is only partial. Hence, you cannot see the full results of your work. And whereas with the people in the first two categories, especially in the first category, the results are drastic. A person comes in, like, I don't know, everything from suicidal to, or major issues and some health problems or whatever, and their life turns around like 100%. And it's like the contrast is insane for the person and for yourself. So hence it's like, oh, this is amazing. You feel good about yourself. And that's also a learning. It was a big learning for me not to attach my inner state to the results that are experienced by clients, because people in second category, which we have like a substantial part of the practice, um, integrate part of the stuff and it changes their life, but maybe it's not as drastic. So at the end of the day, what I've learned is also to do the best I can with what I have. And that's what we call professionalism versus perfectionism.
Hmm.
Professionalism, I'll do my best, and with the resources I have, with the person in front of me, with the knowledge I have, and etc. and etc. And the results will be what they will be.
Hmm. Yeah, I know I'm certainly not in the third bucket.
That is a unique bucket, but becoming less and less unique, I'd say.
Mm. Yeah, I'm definitely not in the third bucket. Um, yeah. Well, you pretty much covered my second question that I had for you, which was really about the barometer or signal that you use to decide whether you're actually going to uh, give your advice, opinions to somebody versus knowing like, okay, I should just keep my mouth shut because they're clearly not asking for my advice, even though I can see the issues, I can see the problem,
Yeah.
and they're not actually seeking or wanting to resolve it.
Yeah, and what I would add there, that's what we call developing the love of Buddha. So there are four types of love: love of Buddha, love of Jesus, love of Allah, and love of Shiva. And love of Buddha is a deep understanding, acceptance, and appreciation that every human has unique journey, evolutionary journey. And accepting that journey. And the way they walk that journey is their way. And we see our way, and often we start imposing our way onto their journey. And that happens in few scenarios. We start imposing things when they're not ready yet. And by the way, that can extend their journey because we're messing with it, right? You could try to open the door for them that they're not ready to look into. For example, somebody's not ready into spirituality, and you start shoving, excuse me, you start shoving that down their throat, and they develop PTSD over spirituality. That was my first experience with meditation. That was probably 2013, and I was like, meditation was just starting to become cool in California on Founders. And I was like, installed the Headspace, and I was like, I'm gonna force myself to meditate for a month. And I forced myself to meditate, and then I fucking hated meditation with my whole body because it was just not aligned, and the type of meditation, like bunch of things were not aligned, right? So you could really kind of close the door a little bit for that person if you're ahead of time. The second thing is um, you might try to impose your own method, whereas their journey is very different. So for example, like we have our system and our method, and it works for specific people, and it doesn't work for many people, meaning it still works, but it does not land. It either doesn't land at where they are right now, or it will never land because they're not the soul that we're supposed to work with. And there are other better practitioners to work with those souls. And that's one of the reasons we're not very public, or we don't market, we don't sell, we're not mass practice, we're not mass marketed practice, because my job, Maxim's job, is quite different. The priority of the work we do is energetic work that is more related to systems of the planet rather than pointed souls and people. And the second part of our practice, and that first part is invisible part of the practice. We don't really talk about it unless it's a specific soul and a specific person. And the second part of the practice do very pointed individual activations of old souls. And so when they come to us, it's like there is attraction. There's like, we don't need to explain it. It's like they like, I don't know why I feel like I need to do it, and I'm willing and I'm open and etc. And I've tried selling our services when Nikolai was still wearing the hat of a businessman. Fuck, those experiences went off rails. It was and I knew like there was a specific example when I felt like I used my sales/marketing charms to close this account, and it ended in a really strange place.
Oh,
And that
wow.
was a big lesson. I was early into Atman. It was a big learning for me. And so yeah, now it's like it's only inbound, and we're very very specific and keen on like giving person telling to person like really reflect if you want to do this, because it's gonna be it's not gonna be easy, and it's gonna be life changing, and it's gonna be drastically life changing. So
It's
yeah, that's what. Go
no,
ahead.
no. I was just gonna say you started leaning right into my next question. So since
Mhm.
you went that way, I just wanted to
Let's
jump
do
in
it.
there with it, where it was like, okay, what's the difference in information seeking between young and old souls? Like, what's the
Mm,
main differences that you've come across in your work in what kind of information, experience, advice that these old souls, they're coming to you looking for versus the young souls? What's the difference going on there?
yeah. So first of all, we don't really see young souls. They don't come to our field. Hence, me commenting on that will be theoretical from knowledge rather than, and maybe for some like, let's call it secondhand smoking, observing them here and there. Their top of mind in their life experience. We briefly chatted about this in previous episodes. Their life experience is less saturated and simpler, so they're usually dealing with like very like let's say one or few major life challenges, and there's not drastic changes in life where you start with one career. Like I started as a software engineer who became entrepreneur who became a spiritual coach. It's like if I ever like, do you see what I mean? Like same as yours, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like come on. So for younger souls, it's like they're developing very specific quality and they're doing it extensive, like for like the whole incarnation. So the life is much simpler, and usually they would not actually, a lot of them, they wouldn't even seek therapy or coaching, self-development, and etc., because the incarnation is very simple. So their coaching will happen at their job, by their manager, or by a friend, or whatever. It's really more, and I guess let's call it, there's intermediate soul that would be more curious and more focused on self-development and etc. And then the advanced or old soul, the full mode here is to connect with the soul spirit, figuring out who they are and why they're here and what's going on this planet. And as a result, they have a lot of curiosity, but not always the readiness for what is being presented. So meaning they're seeking, uh, but they can only hear and receive where they're in their journey. And by the way, we have a bunch of internal instruments. The one instrument we like using, and I just shared your vibrational level of your etheric body, because it's more all-encompassing metric. It basically, the metric is the throughput of energy through the etheric body of your being. And for that throughput to increase, you have to harmonize your personality and connect with your soul and spirit. So it actually encapsulates a lot of things in one. So that's why we use it as a proxy metric of the where the person is in their journey. And we actually have a scale. And so, for example, a star soul incarnates into the body at vibrational level of 50 megahertz, and they can either grow from there or they can degrade from there. And some degrade. We've seen degradation
Really?
multiple times. Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
To put it in perspective, we've chatted about third-party civilizations here, like reptilians, greys, and etc. Their avatars vibrate at around 3. And for them, 4.5 is a lot. And to put it in perspective, so I'm just trying to remember the scale. 3 is like animalistic survival mode, resources to survive. Around 4 is going beyond protecting your own individual life. You start realizing you have offsprings and you should be protecting them as well. And accumulate resources to create software landing for them. So there is a little bit more foresight. There is more long-term thinking versus I need to eat now and survive now. Versus here, there's it starts. You add a strategic material planning. So a person starts accumulating some kind of wealth or assets and etc. By 5, the curiosity arises of self-development. But at 5, the self-development is not really spiritual. It's I want to be better. And if we kind of talk about Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs, so this 5 is kind of, let's call it 4th entering the 5th level, but it's more like curiosity of like, how do I self-improve and where does that lead? At 5.5 is where a person starts sensing that they're not body, that they're not physical body, that they're actually soul or consciousness. Just starting to sense, not embody it, but just starting to sense. By 6, they start realizing more and more that the world is not fully physical, but rather it's made out of energy. Hence, this whole concept of consciousness and soul has a real place to be, and etc. etc. So that's the internal scale that we that we used to understand. And what we realized, for example, we are not necessarily a great practice for people at 5 to even 6. It is much easier for us to interact and work with people who are at 6 and beyond. And even that is, for some people, is challenging. With that said, we had cases when people came to us at like 5.2, 5.3 and had successful experience. And it's just a slower experience, and that's perfectly fine. And we're building more and more instruments to create that bridge. But given because that bridge is more for let's call it Joe Dispenza's, Michael Zinger's, Eckhart Tolle's, and I don't know, Muji's, and et cetera, of the world. And what's interesting, there is somebody who I recently chatted, and he sent me his teachers, spiritual teachers, and he asked for my opinion, and I can provide subjective opinion. And I've decided to build a slide that is more data driven and objective with vibrational levels. So, for example, you recently joined Siddha Mahayoga.
Hmm.
The guru who's running that practice, he'll be on that slide. So I'll share
Oh,
that
beautiful.
slide with you. So people can more objectively start understanding where different teachers stand, and where they stand comparing to the teachers. And if your teacher, um, if your basically teacher's vibration is higher than yours, that means you still have things to learn. With that said, in the matrix that we exist in, we have something to learn from everyone, including
Yeah.
a reptilian avatar that's vibrating at 3.5.
Hmm.
They're there to teach us things. So that's. But what I mean by you have something to learn, let's say you're getting close to 7.0, and let's say your teacher is 8.0. That means there's high chance there's still knowledge about how life works, uh, to share with you. There's still information to learn from that teacher. To put it also in perspective, um, my vibrational level and Maxime's vibrational level is really high. And that is very high, not because we're spectacular teachers, because our primary job is a job of architects working on the matrix and working on the energetic systems of the planet. And that requires very high vibrational level. As a result, it requires very harmonious personality, because the way it works is it's like electricity. If you have distortions in your personality, and or another way, twisted wires, and you send 10,000 volts through that causes explosion. That
Mm.
basically can kill avatar. So it was a long journey for Maxime and myself to get to a place where we can enable that large amount of energy to flow through our bodies. And that's why, for example, we cannot really compare ourselves, for example, to Joe Dispenza or Michael Zanger or Muji, because their purpose, the purpose of their soul and avatar, is different than ours. So as a result, we've added this concept of optimal operating vibration. So our optimal operational vibration will be higher than another soul because of the work we're supposed to do for this planet, on this planet, and etc. So let's say we've talked about, what's his name, Michael Neal,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
um, uh, that's I think, okay, that's an edge scenario, because that's an avatar of the same soul I'm attached to. Let's take another person. Let's say Joe Dispenza could be spectacularly better at delivering a introductory and intermediate esoteric knowledge than Nikolai and Maxime, because that's his purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what he's calling perfecting how to deliver that knowledge to get the person from 5.0 vibration to 6.0 and hopefully to 7.0. And another thing to throw in there are different types of knowledge. So the first type of knowledge is basically the knowledge of understanding how this planet works, how the material side of this planet works. So that's biology, um, physics, mathematics, and etc. The second knowledge is what we call esoteric knowledge or esoterics. That is an understanding how energy influences matter. And that's mostly esoterics, is the knowledge how to live life in this material world. How, like, if we behave this way, what's going to happen, and etc. But now we are starting to understand flow of energy. Not like, hey, if I jump out from a fifth floor, high chance I'm going to break a bunch of bones. It's like, oh, if somebody's triggering me, that means there is energy within me that they're trying to mirror me, and etc. If I hold my focus and charge it with a strong emotion, I will start the process of manifestation, and etc. and etc. It's related to your internal matrix.
Mm.
So it's your internal processes of your life. And the idea is through that knowledge, we structure our individual matrix, hence achieve harmony in our life. And then there is metaphysics. And metaphysics are processes of how universe works at large. So it goes beyond the individual matrix to the level of the planetary matrix, solar system matrix, how the universe works overall, how the galaxies work, how all the energies flow, what are the processes of all these interaction of all these energies. So, and tying it back to where I started, some people's purpose is just to deliver first and second, or just first or first and second level of knowledge. We also deliver the third level of knowledge because that's also the work we do. Hence, the souls that end up with us, working with us, or come to our field, are interested or need that information to fully align with their purpose and the work they're supposed to do on this planet. So uh, that's, I guess, a lot of information about different spectrums of teachers and information, and why some people are willing to receive, not willing, ready, not ready, and etc.
Yeah, so that brings me to an interesting question then. Like, um, and we'll use myself as the data
Yeah,
points, right?
yeah,
So I know you just sent me the etheric body. I think it was
yeah. 6.7.
6.7. And when I started the journey with you, where was I at approximately?
Can't remember now. I should check. It was 5 something, but it's like 5 to 6 is a big range, and it's quite a big difference.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So then, as someone's going through their experience, right?
yeah.
How how do you know which level they should ultimately be at, or how do you know what sort of level they should be working with, like in terms of, like you had just mentioned, the individuals that you're working with versus the
Yeah.
individuals that a Joe Dispenza is working with, for example?
Yeah, and by the way, I'm just checking your vibrational level when you started. We might have not measured it from the beginning, but the earliest measurement I have is 5.7.
Okay.
So, and by the way, another thing is, people think, oh, going from 5.7 to 5.8 is like nothing, but this is a more of a exponential metric than a linear metric. So to put it in perspective, some souls that loaded here to go from like 5 to 5.5 or 4.5 to 5 in the whole like 80 to 100 years of life. And the unique scenario here is that there are a bunch of very advanced souls loaded into these bodies, and those souls are not interested to go point 0.5. But going point 0.5 in the environment that we exist is not easy. And I find especially the journey from around, let's call it 5 to 7, is challenging because there's still a lot of distortions in personality and in a character that really take a lot of energy and disbalance people as they go through their journey. With that said, I'm observing 7 to 9 people. There are different challenges there as well, because what happens is, at that point they're already like quite well synchronized with their soul, and they're starting to synchronize with their spirit, and they shifted from the ego of the mind to ego of the soul and shifting to the ego of the spirit, where there is this ego develops that, well, I'm like spiritually advanced, I can see things. Where we started our conversation, those people can already see through other people, see their bullshit, see their manipulation, see their energy, see their everything. So they start feeling godlike, and that is the spirit ego. And they there's it's very easy to get stuck in that one. And I've seen a lot of spiritual practitioners who just get stuck in that mode, where, well, I'm healing people, I'm helping people, and like I'm at the peak of my evolution. In reality, they just got stuck in like 7 8, and not moving on because that ego turned on. And that's what I mentioned also. Well, myself, Maxime, other people who work with have to go through that, go past that stage. And that is not easy, because it creates a perception that, oh, it seems like I've achieved the ultimate level of knowledge on this planet, because like I can't find anyone else who has knowledge beyond or whatever. But in reality, it was like there's a new layer and new layer and new layer and new layer. And ultimately, there is there's many layers. So this planet, to put it in perspective, around 2-3 years ago, only supported vibrational level up to 7. So where you are right now, you would have been already almost at a max.
Mm.
And no matter what you did, you couldn't surpass it. And if you wanted to surpass it, your soul exits the body, hence you die. So then it expanded to 9, 10, and now it supports, because we've chatted about this, the reason what's unfolding on the planet uh, is the reason why things that we see what's happening with current state of the world, society, and etc., is because the whole solar system, this whole sector of the universe is moving. It's not stationary. By living here, we think it's stationary. We're just in the same part of the universe, and our planet goes around the sun. No, this whole thing is flying through universe, and we've entered high vibrational space. And the space that we've entered, the planet now supports vibrational level up to 16 megahertz.
Mm.
And right now, I think people can only reach up to around 14. So there's still so much room to get to even 16. And once again, going from 12 to 13, let's say, with super advanced knowledge, doing it full time, like let's call it 6 to 12 hours a day, being it like full time job, will take you a year, maybe more. In some scenarios, and rare scenarios, less. That is like you're doing it full time. So basically, where I'm going with this, there is a lot of room already to grow into on this planet, and then this planet and this whole system still continues to move through the universe. So who knows where this planet is in 1,000 years? Well, and I'm using 1,000 years. Everybody's thinking, well, I'm out of this planet in, I don't know, 30, 50 years. The beauty is that as we enter high vibrational space, people who align and who can actually increase their vibration by aligning, their bodies will start rejuvenating. Because DNA is changing, and longevity. Originally, this body was designed to support 10,000 year longevity. And then as this part of universe, basically solar system, entered low vibrational space, there was so little energy reaching this planet or left on this planet, that the body started decaying much faster. So this movement, the opposite movement, is happening. So taking good care of your avatar is a good idea, because you could reach an escape velocity where this body could potentially live for 1,000 years plus. Not 10,000 yet, but hopefully 1,000 years plus. So first we'll see the expansion to like 200-300 years. Then that buys us a lot of time. Hence, we have a lot of time to expand it further. And what's interesting, it's already starting to let's call it, materialize and show up in the field. First of all, the amount of money is getting invested in longevity and extending longevity of the body is like insane. So much capital is flowing there. Then recently, somebody sent me, there was a new discovery in Japan that extends the longevity of cells extensively. However, what people are not realizing is that longevity is not related to all the biohacking you're doing on a physical level. That can give you, I don't know, 5-10% extension at best. And there's the guy, what's his name, Brian
Yeah, I was
Johnson,
just
that
about to say Brian Johnson, yeah.
yeah, that spends extensive amount of money and time, and stuff he does is entertaining. Like I've done that for 10 years to learn that lesson. What extends longevity of the body is amount of energy that is traveling through physical body. So the way the body dies, consciousness or soul disconnects from the body. That's it. It starts dying. But the soul can re-enter. That's why we've seen things like clinical death and all that stuff, all those unexplainable situations. So the way universe works is pretty pragmatic. If Mitch and Nikolai are aligned with the energy they're supposed to bring to this sector of universe, it wants to give more energy. It wants to invest more energy. And as long as the energy is flowing, uh, it wants to keep the avatar alive. So that energy starts healing the avatar. So the real longevity on this planet is alignment with your purpose. So the person who aligns with their purpose and why they're here will live a long and happy life. With that said, they can complete their incarnation program, let's say, by the time they're, well, now with the new knowledge and capabilities and the stuff we're sharing with people, they can complete their incarnation program by the time they're 30, 35. And then the logic could be, well, you've already completed what you're supposed to do for the planet, so time to exit. Yes, that's one of the options. Time to exit the body, and you can exit if you would like, because you've already completed what you're incarnated to do. However, there's a different option. You can reload without dying. So you still stay, the soul stays in the body, soul spirit stays connected in the body, and it loads the next incarnation program.
Mm.
And the experience of reloading feels like a bit of a psychedelic trip if you're not asleep. So whenever that happens, so if we do it for somebody where they reach that level, now the process is becoming automated. It is kind of automated. Sometimes it needs manual guidance. Uh, I first time I wasn't fully reloaded, but additional stuff was loaded in. I was awake, and it was pretty scary because I was chopping tomatoes for the salad, and I almost started chopping off my fingers because everything started folding, and I'm 100% sober. No alcohol, no substances, nothing.
Wow.
Like water and a salad. And the whole environment around me started like literally folding, and I started tripping, and I missed 17 calls from Maxime because he got a message he needs to reload me. And so he was trying to reach me to tell me, hey, go to sleep so I can restart you.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know such thing existed. That was my first experience of that. And then that's how I knew some of these things, because I was still, let's call it, I was deep in a journey, but I was still quite skeptical. And
Yeah.
that experience definitely took me to the next level of believing in all this energetic world, because literally chopping salad and out of nowhere having a full on psychedelic experience that really made me ponder and rethink things in my life. And then the next reload was much easier because, like, I knew to go to sleep, and then another one was just I was like, it just happened naturally when I was sleeping. So the beauty of that, you retain this body and you retain the connection to the soul and spirit, and another incarnation program gets added. So you don't have to do this initial stage all over again, loading into a baby in a mother's womb, then learning how to operate this bioenergetic avatar, how to the physics works on this planet, and etc. You jump right into the next purpose and objectives and etc. And we will see more and more and more of this happening on this planet.
Yeah, it's funny how you said the skeptical piece, and I'm not sure there's necessarily a way to deal with that except to go through it. I mean, I know for me, it's it's been the belief has been built kind of step by step, stone by stone as I've gone down the journey because
Yeah.
you need some sort of visceral experience to say, okay, like now I'm on board with this, and then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I'll I'm on with this, but this piece I'm like, really? And then you got to go and you got to get a taste of that, and then be like, okay, so now I'm on with this, but there's still this little piece. I'm like, really? And I don't know that you could necessarily just say blindly say, oh, I believe it all without having some experience of it. I don't know. Maybe some people do.
You've nailed it, and we've touched on this, and you beautifully unpacked the topic we touched on in a previous episode. So that's the problem with dogmatic approach to life. If you just blindly start believing, you just jump from a religion to religion or from dogma to dogma. And like for example, when we start working with someone, the first thing we tell them, you should be skeptical of everything we tell you, and then you should take that knowledge and go test it in your real life and then come back and let us know. And if something doesn't work, call bullshit. That means either we've misdelivered something, which rarely happens because another thing that happens at a very high vibration level, if you misspeak and or distort the truth, the speed at which the matrix course corrects you is very rapid. And there are some good examples. Sadhguru, who I think almost all listeners, viewers will know, recently had brain cancer. And it's interesting. I don't know him. I observed that journey from aside, but having a deep understanding of esoterics and this scenario, in this scenario would be esoterics. I observed his journey, and when pandemic came, he started delivering some really distorted information. And I'm like, wow, like this guy was pretty pure and was delivering some really high quality information. And then things started getting a little bit off rails. And then boom, it's announced that he has brain cancer, brain tumor.
Mm,
And luckily, he understands esoterics really well. I'm pretty sure the process. I don't know the actual story, but me as a side, like as an external observer, he understood where it's coming from. Brain tumor is one of the punishments you can get for misspoken information at a high vibration,
mm,
and he adjusted, and now he's at a really high vibrational level. And I haven't watched his stuff recently, but like couple years ago post tumor, I've noticed how he's adjusted in what he's delivering, how he's delivering, and etc. And he's now at 11, I think, I believe 11 megahertz vibrational level, which is really high, given that right now I think the maximum we've seen is probably going to be around 13ish on the planet, maybe 14ish. So where I'm going with this is um, as we deliver information, we tell everybody to be skeptical and test it. And if we misspoke, which happens, we will know very fast. And we usually would call a person, say, hey, we made a mistake here because something would happen. Or either it will be internally nugging us, or Matrix will actually create an event. And there is a real event that Maxime had. He misspoke some stuff about the story of Jesus. And the next day, he got a nail right through his hand.
wow.
And so it was very fast. It was less than 24 hours.
Wow. And
Yeah.
talk about um nailing the point, so to speak, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the person goes out and tests. A lot of times, what happens is they if it doesn't work, high chance they misunderstood it, and we have to basically dig into that information again. In a small percentage, we've misspoke, misdelivered something, and that's another indicator for when you're working with somebody. The higher vibration that teacher has, the higher chance that they will delivering higher quality information. And at a lower vibration, it is permissible to deliver partially distorted information, or at least deliver information as that is in access for that person. And I'll give you an example. Right now, there are a lot of teachers. Actually, most of the teachers on a planet are under influence of third-party civilizations, insectoids, dagoons, reptilians, and etc. But most of them don't know that. So they're doing their best delivering information, and that's perfectly fine. You don't go out and disregard this teacher. You still have a lot to learn from them. But there will be informational distortion, and it's perfectly fine. That's why in this situation, what's really important is to listen to your intuition, because once you start reaching specific level of evolutionary level or a specific level of vibration, you start sensing that it's time to move on to different teacher. That means you've absorbed what you could have from this teacher, and you should move on. And whereas a lot of people get stuck, and by the way, that's also one of the more dangerous distortions that introduce through some of the teachings, this following or loyalty and guru-esque or guru type of structure of the teaching or the practice, where it is celebrated and rewarded to be a follower or student for extensive periods of time. Oh, I've been with this guru for 10 years. This is the fucking worst shit ever. If you've been with the guru for 10 years, dude, high chance you're stuck. And this is overstatement because let's say if I was talking about this around 5-10 years ago, it would be normal because the maximum level of vibration was 7, and everybody was more or less capping out at, like, let's call it 6.5 and 7. That there was not really anywhere else to go. But right now, the spiritual knowledge has expanded. And so today, if you started being with somebody 10 years ago and you're still with them, either you're not learning and you're just going to that group to fill up on energy of the group of others. So you're basically a parasite and you're not really willing to do the work on yourself. Or if you were doing the work on yourself, you should have moved on by now, because by now you would have started reaching the level of your guru and teacher, if they're good guru and teacher, and the structure is not like stay the follower forever, and you would have intuitively moved on. And I had a very interesting experience with with Maxime, who was my last teacher. I clearly remember this moment. I was in Palo Alto, and I'm walking, and he calls me, and I pick up the phone, and he's like, "I cannot be your teacher anymore." It's like, dude, what the fuck you're talking about? Like, I don't know my head from my ass. I still have so much to learn. He's like, "No, I cannot be your teacher." I'm like, I don't understand what this. I'm like really upset, right? And he's like, "This your learning will be stalled, and if we stay in a teacher student relationship, we should shift our relationship to partnership if that is of an interest." And because then he says, "I'm not blocking you in your evolution because you're basically almost at my level, and if I keep you as a student, you won't be able to kind of walk with me and more as much in parallel as possible, or even if some scenarios, if you can go beyond, go beyond."
Mm.
And in the first place, I didn't have as a deep of appreciation of that, but then I had a little bit more of experiences with some of my original teachers who tried to who I've clearly surpassed. Clear by when I say clearly for myself, I felt like I surpassed them. That's why I stopped going to sessions with them and etc. And but what's interesting, we stayed friends because it was such a intimate and deep experience of having so much knowledge shared with me. So we stayed friends. So every time I would catch up, the person unconsciously, that teacher unconsciously would try to plug me back into the position of a student.
Mm.
And that communication was falling apart. And then once I realized how it works, I specifically with that example, I had to speak with that person to point that out. Luckily, he was open enough, and he understood it, and we just shifted that relationship to friendship. But I don't think it ever fully shifted into friendship, because then some weird competition started happening from that end. To me, I'm like already moved on and forgot, and we're just good friends.
Yeah.
Um, so that is also something that is very important to observe. And it's interesting, in that scenario, I surpassed that person, and I actually started. There were moments when that person started coming for help to me. So it flipped. So I became a teacher to that person for the moments when he was open to receive.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, important for everyone's journey to really sense into their intuition. And that's where we started, this conversation about people hearing or receiving the information, right? So summarizing that is, first of all, like Nikolai Maxim might not be the right fit for whoever viewing this, but if you're viewing this and it's like creates a lot of curiosity and you're engaged and you watch quite a few episodes, high chance probably sooner or later we'll interact. But if you start viewing and this is like, this guy's talking about strange things, or the way he's talking about is not aligned, that means there's just you have different teachers in your journey. So it's important for everyone to follow their intuition, versus I think what's also happening quite a bit right now in spirituality is following brands, or what one of the friends calls avatars of powerful souls, and which is basically guruship guruship model, right? Where there is a guru and you follow the guru and you follow the school and blah blah blah. That is and it's like it's I call it loyalty to your own detriment. You should be always be honest with yourself and others. And yes, it's okay to follow a guru. Uh, Work on yourself, and once you feel like the journey is coming to the end, for example, Siddha Mahayoga, where you're right now,
Hmm.
I was part of that journey, and I was very active participant of that group. And once that journey came to the end, I just like thanked everybody, made a donation, and moved on, because I felt like it cannot help me anymore. And for example, the guru who leads that group, we've just also looked at his vibration. Can't remember. I think it's around 7.7. Like I'm far surpassed that vibrational level. And I know some of his students who've surpassed his level, but they're either still involved or still a little bit there, but usually most of them who surpassed have moved on already. So it's important to not to it, to follow your intuition and to be very, I guess, open about that. This it's same as relationships or theatricals in life. First you work on one job, then you've reached the max there, you shift to another job. The same concept here. And when a person follows their intuition, they will start landing with modalities and teachers that are the right fit for them, and then they will easily hear and receive information. So that's also very important, the fit. And if the person is chasing brand names, shiny things, and that's how, by the way, the old version of a material world program, right? Oh, if you buy a brand, it's a higher quality. So that, of course, transitioned to, let's call it, to maybe 5.0 to 7 vibrational level, maybe 6.5, where people buy based on brand. Or I've heard of Joe Dispenza, hence I'm going to go there, and then they have very strange experience. Whereas for some people, Joe Dispenza is a perfect fit. Like, I know, like for a lot of women, Joe Dispenza somehow really lands, even though when I listen to his meditation, I feel like he's screaming at me, and I'm like, I can't listen to that. Then there's another factor, like, for example, Joe Dispenza's soul is from Spica. So when somebody's soul is from Spica, it's easier to relate to that. So hence, that might be another aspect that would get that person stuck for Joe Dispenza longer than necessary. And somebody who worked at Atman got a lot from Joe Dispenza, really grew a lot from Joe Dispenza, and developed great meditation practice of her own, and etc. But kind of got stuck there because she's also from Spica.
Mm.
And so there are like multiple factors. And intuition is one, but one thing that we're speaking about here, if you've been with the same teacher for extensive period of time, either you're not learning and not working on yourself and you're going there for energy, or the teacher is not teaching and having you as one of the followers for whatever reason, or you might be already done and it's time to consider new teachers and you're just not realizing that, and you're just have a mental model that, wow, this teacher has done so much for me that I should stay in the structure. And that's like actually I'd say the most dangerous trap, because and that's what I call loyal to your own detriment, right?
Hmm.
Oh, that helped me so much, it helped me recover from this disease or something, that means it will take me to where I'm going. No, it's same as saying, uh, I went to a hospital and they, because like I chopped my leg open and they sewn it together and it helped me to walk again and like fix my body. Hence, this method will always help with my marriage. Why don't I
Yeah.
take my wife to the same surgeon, and that surgeon, we will sew the marriage together. It's
Stitch it up,
exactly the
baby.
same statement. Yeah, exactly. Stitch up the marriage. It's basically exactly the same approach. So if some kind of modality or a teacher, etc., help you at one stage in life, it doesn't mean they will lead you to the next stage in life.
Yeah, and then one thing I wanted to touch on here just to round this out, because I know we literally just had this moment occur, so I'm really curious about it. Just speaking about teachers and messaging, and is it common for multiple avatars to send the same message or multiple avatars connected to the same soul? Like, what might that be indicative of? When you start to see something like that happen, what is the Matrix trying to tell us and or me? when
Well, yeah. First of all, first of all, let's explain the construct of avatars, multiple avatars,
Yeah.
large advanced souls. Incarnate When they incarnate, they can handle large amounts of experience. Hence, one single human body is not enough. So it splits up into pieces of consciousness that attach to, like, for an advanced soul could be 100 200 avatars. So there are like basically, let's call my soul, let's call it I don't want to call it Nikolai's soul, let's call it soul A, right? Soul A is quite advanced, and it's like, well, I want to have a lot of experience but also have a bunch of backup plan, because what was assigned by spirit to the soul is very advanced and extensive work on this planet. So if one avatar fails, I have not completed my mission, hence I will not receive additional energy. So on one end, it's a more extensive experience that happening in parallel. And second one, it's backup. And I've seen the avatars fail, where basically soul withdraw energy and the avatar gets shut down. Basically, the person dies, and that basically ends. So yeah, one purpose of additional avatars backup, they kind of have similar mission, or could be similar experiences, but then avatar cannot figure it out and does not live a aligned life. And usually that one can die early or can die later, but still early. Let's say 60, 65, could be 30, 35. If it's clear that one is done, is completely off rails, completely got lost, let's start withdrawing energy and not supplying any more energy. And then the second one is diverse experience, right? So I've seen, let's say, a soul load into multiple avatars. One avatar goes on a super extreme side of the spectrum of spirituality, and another avatar would go on a super extreme side of a material experience. So it collects both experience at the same time, so it doesn't need to split it up. And what's interesting, if both of those avatars harmoniously collect experience, it's cross pollinated. Uh, Intuitively, it's almost like subconsciously you can deliver like you can feel like, let's say this one develop harmonious experience with material, this one starts somehow figuring out that how to effectively interact with money and the material world and etc., because it's all connected to the same consciousness, and experience ultimately flows into the cloud or into the soul, right?
Mhm.
And so there will be similarities in some of the experiences. For example, all the avatars, most of the avatars I know are coaches or spiritual practitioners, but very different modalities and very different target markets. So, like, one is very good with plant medicine and substances. Another one who you introduced me in London, I remember what his practice is. I think, like, let's call it a day-to-day average coaching. Uh, I don't know, like I might be like messing it up, but let's assume it's that.
Yeah.
Then the coach you just introduced me to through the book, right? Quite, I'd say, quite advanced life coach. Like, I'd say probably on one of the I'd say probably on one of the most advanced levels of life coaching, knowing, like, we've checked his vibration as well. It's around 10. And given his focus is life coaching, uh, that's very advanced for life coach. So that means he can really go deep and he can really help um, and introduce quantum transformations, major shifts, like
Mm.
paradigm shifts in life, right? So that means he deeply understood esoterics world, and he probably has a good understanding of metaphysical world. And through that holistic understanding, and it's interesting, I'm translating from Russian now. Integration of three knowledges. And by the way, what would you call the knowledge I'm missing right now? English word that is like the science. Oh, natural sciences. Here we go. Natural sciences, esoterics, and metaphysics. Integrating of those three knowledges and understanding, integrating all of these three sciences or knowledges leads to what we call in Russian trivial knowledge, full, complete, holistic understanding of workings of life. So in his scenario, and we're talking here about Michael Neal,
Mm.
he probably has understanding of most of those. That's why he can really create transformational shifts very, very effectively.
Yeah. So it was just interesting to see how you can get, me as this avatar. It's like I told you, I was like, oh my
Yep.
God, like Nikolai's speaking to me, but this is a different person. But it's like, it's exactly what you said, man. And it's like, so it's just fascinating that even, I guess we could say that the Matrix can decide, okay, well, we're gonna shoot you this information through the same soul, different avatars, and let's see if this even sticks harder or lands
Yeah.
different, or I don't even know. It was very strange but fascinating. So
Yeah, and so I guess to add the context for the viewers and listeners,
yeah, I'm
uh,
totally leaving
m-
out the viewers. I'm
yeah,
all about myself
yeah,
right now.
Mitch was listening to an audiobook by Michael Neal, and he was like, literally, he's like, I feel like you're speaking to me through this audiobook. And
Yeah,
I'm like, intuitively, I sense there might be another of my avatars. And then I checked myself, and the answer is yes. But in those scenarios, because I don't know, Nikolai's avatar is involved, there could be bias. So I asked the team to check it, to double check, and the response was positive. And and then it brings us to what we've also discussed in previous, I think it was in the episode about finding true love, about relationships, how different contracts between souls work. So clearly our souls have contract to help each other evolve. And so you already connected with three avatars of my soul: Nikolai, the guy in London, and Neil through the book, right?
yeah,
So clearly, basically, what your soul and my soul decided, it's a good collaboration to help each other evolve. So let's keep incarnating together so we help each other. So whatever, for example, the message did not land through this body, through this mouth speaking, Michael jumped in, which I'd say he's probably much more advanced in helping you in your stage, and he can deliver it better. And he came in and just nailed a bunch of things that you've already kind of heard from Nikolai, but it could have been in a weird Russian accent and strange, I don't know, metaphysical sentences. And he just like brought it in, and just like some things landed.
yeah. It was just fascinating. And like I said, I mean, that's why as I was listening, I was laughing to myself, and I screen recorded and sent you the recording because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, because I know you're gonna listen to this and be like, yep, that's exactly what I say, right?
But my reaction was not just that. My reaction was like, wow, this guy delivered it so well. I was like, this is like, I literally had a great chuckle, and then I started sharing it with everyone, because it was like, this guy nailed the delivery. And that brings us back to where we started this conversation. The reason it's important to pick your teachers intuitively. And for teachers, it's very important to pick their students intuitively,
Mm,
because for information to land, there needs to be a fit, right?
yeah, yeah.
And if there's not a fit, and like I've shared briefly that I had experiences where I didn't pick the right clients, but back then I thought of them as clients, as students, right?
Mhm,
And it was just not a great experience for neither. So that's also an important factor in being able to hear, receive information, and being able to deliver information. And that brings me to technicality in that there's actually esoteric metaphysical reason why, for example, one person would hear and it will land and another person wouldn't, is dominating energies and soul structure. So you're learning truth and knowledge. Up until recently, I didn't have truth and knowledge as one of my capabilities in my soul. So I was sharing a lot of stuff, but only small percentage would land with you. Luckily, okay, higher percentage would land because one of my dominating energies is harmony and order. Harmony and order is white energy, which is basically a full spectrum of all colors. So as a result, I can deliver information to almost any soul. However, it will not land as deeply as for example, you have another dominating energy as wisdom. Another
mm,
teacher comes in with dominating energy of wisdom, and it will just fucking land. Like, even if if you will speak in a heavy, I don't know, let's say Indian accent, well, you'll understand only like 50% of the words, it will still land better because it's energetic, because you guys are vibrating with the same energy, and it just flows. And that brings me to the most important thing about delivery information. It's not about words. Words are like just decoration. It's about energy. Most of the knowledge and wisdom is delivered via energetic transfer. It's like a WinZip file or a zip file, archive file that gets unpacked. So that's why, for example, what we did in Slovenia, we had a gathering in Slovenia. I call it unretreat because it had no structure, but it was more powerful than most retreats because people spent time in each other's fields extensively, and they exchanged those informational packets that started unpacking. And everyone I spoke to got major upgrades. After that, a bunch of people got sick. Some people got sick during the event, or on retreat, or wherever we're gonna call it. So, and as an example, there are a few people are flying in tomorrow here to Montenegro to spend in-person time with me. And by the way, we should hang out all together.
yeah, definitely.
And because they got all the knowledge, and of course the informational packets, energy travels also remotely.
Mhm,
When the soul is advanced, the level of the how advanced the soul is also indicates the size of that consciousness. And by the way, most of the advanced souls on this planet, their size of the consciousness is larger than this planet. Hence, they can heal remotely. Hence, they can transfer information remotely. If you take young soul or younger soul that's developing, let's say, healing capability, and Mitch is sitting in, let's say, North America, and that soul is sitting in India, the healing will not work. Even though energy has no space and time, it doesn't have space and time, but it does, because
mm,
that soul can only reach the level of, like, let's say, a distance of 100-kilometer radius. That's the span of that consciousness. And there are a bunch of very advanced soul integrated here that reach far out to universe with their level of consciousness. That's what also enables remote healing. That's why it works over Zoom. And coming back to delivery of knowledge, yes, it travels as we speak here right now. And even viewers and listeners who are listening to this, I'm sharing my energy with you. But of course, us hanging out for 3 days in the mountains, and just the funniest thing, we didn't even talk a lot of spiritual stuff in Slovenia. We were just shooting the shit a lot of time
yeah.
about life in general. I don't know, politics, random topics. But the information is traveling via energy, and major upgrades are happening. So, and that's why recently we were on the walk with my sister, and we realized, I guess in the future we'll be organizing retreats where people just fly in to hang out, and we just hang out and have fun. And even without any lectures or spiritual practices, they'll get major upgrades, and that's where it's heading. And another interesting story on this, on information uh, transfer via energy, is Maxim's one of the Maxim's important teachers in his life is this guy who lives on the border of like Russia, Mongolia, China, I don't know, somewhere in that area. It's like basically Tibet area
Mhm.
in that region. Like to get there, you need like 1 week expedition to even get there. Like there are no roads, nothing. Like you have to organize an expedition. The guy spoke 7 Russian words, you know, and there is a translator, but of course you can't translate everything. And then he came to Maxim and he was like, you come sit with me by the fire. And everybody's like, why him? There's a bunch of people that came, right? And then he came to sit with him by the fire. He's like, okay, next few days you're gonna come and sit by me. I was like, wow, what's going on? I'm gonna download all into you all the knowledge I have, 0 words, and like transferred all the knowledge, basically the whole Dzogchen Buddhist teaching and more, which is like you can be learning for multiple incarnations, right? It's like extensive text, extensive amounts of knowledge. And then it started unpacking for Maxime over years. And it's like out of nowhere, he would just know things. And it's like, first he like almost would forget that happened. And it's like, oh, I sat beside a random guy who barely speaks,
Yeah.
Russian in somewhere in the mountains of Tibet. And we looked at the fire. And then like 3 years later, it's like, oh, I didn't realize I know this. And then like he would speak in depth about some random topics in esoterics, or even, I don't know, in like biology. And it's like, oh, that's how the cells interact and that's how they exchange energy. I'm like, I never extensively studied biology. How do I know this?
Yeah.
So coming back to where I started this, when souls have the same dominating energies, it is easier to transfer. It is easier to transfer information. So that's a esoteric or technical reason why it's important to look for a good fit teacher and good fit student. And actually, at early stages in Atman, we had a pretty big team, 15 people, and then we realized we learned a lot. We realized we couldn't integrate everyone into one system of knowledge because a lot of people were there for salary rather than evolutionary growth. And we were trying to share the knowledge, but they kind of wanted to do their own thing. Hence, we decided to shrink and only stay with a group of people who are synchronized in the same structure of knowledge or the same system of knowledge. Where I'm going with this, when we were at that scale, we knew everybody's dominating energy, where their soul is from, and the way we matched practitioners on Atman team with clients is based where their soul was from and their dominating energy. And it was confirmed. Like, let's say a client comes in and their soul is from Spica and their dominating energy is truth and knowledge. And let's say we have a John whose soul is also from Spica and their dominating energy is truth and knowledge. Boom, they just love each other for whatever reason, like unexplainable reason, and the things are just flowing. So that's how we would match people. And but now we basically, the way we work usually in a small groups of 2. So like, for example, when we deliver sessions, it would be me and Maxime usually delivering the sessions, 2 of us, because then it covers like whole gamut of energies. So it will definitely land, and we will explain things differently. In another scenarios, like could be me and Irina, and like now we're starting to expand the team, and as we expand, thinking about expanding the team, we've developed a new model. We found it's very powerful to work in a groups of 2 rather than solo.
Mhm.
And whereas I think one of the biggest challenge of today's state of spirituality is very heavily solo practitioner based, because
Mm.
it's like have you really seen coach who works with another coach at the same time? They usually do it only at the retreat, but not in one-on-one personal coaching.
That's
So
true.
yeah, it's because a lot of times it's one of the egos get triggered,
I was just
and
gonna
so
say, I bet you it was because of ego, right?
yeah, well, at early stages, the first version of Atman. So coming from a very capitalistic material world of building businesses in San Francisco, I thought, wow, finally I'm in a group of people who are highly conscious. all these spiritual people until I started trying to put them in the teams. The whole fucking thing imploded. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I could build great teams in this material world, but I cannot, for a life of mine, I cannot build teams out of these spiritual people, and they're much more advanced and highly conscious. Well, mind ego, soul ego, and spirit ego. As you go up through those, the strength of the ego increases as well. So actually, people who live a simple material life, or well, people who live simple material life, I'd say have the smallest egos. Then, as somebody accumulates a bunch of matter or material wealth or whatever it is, or status or power or whatever,
Mm.
their material or mind ego increases, but it's still not as strong as the other egos could be. And literally, I just couldn't put two practitioners on the same sessions. Then they started being separate sessions. But then the work that one did with the client was shitting on the work of the other. I was like, I was caught by surprise. And that's, to me, that's also the indication of the current state of this, let's call it spiritual industry or spiritual field, that most are still work individually. And the most they do as collaboration or co-creation, they can handle teamwork for short retreats of few days or a week or a couple of weeks maximum. That's another thing to observe as you as everybody's going through their journey, because that's an indicator of how far the teacher is also. And whereas the sixth version of the matrix, where the whole world is going to collaboration. And the beauty, especially and importance of collaboration and co-creation in a spiritual practices, is because we're somewhat going to many people to into unknown, because it's not tangible. We're reading and translating energies. And like, how do you know if somebody's not hallucinating? And you don't, because every person has their own individual distortions. So, and that's what I realized early on in this field, as I shifted from tech to spirituality, that there are a lot of hallucinations. And there are a lot of teachers, gurus who are hallucinating, kind of like ChatGPT and all the AIs are hallucinating.
Yeah, I was just
Saying,
about to mention ChatGPT.
yeah,
Yeah.
say same concept. Whereas when there is a group working on a single person, uh, everybody's distortion of a personality, or their lens distortion in their lens of viewing the energy, is different. So it's much easier to find the actual truth with multiple people looking at the same person. And that's another recommendation. When you seek some kind of help, seek out somebody who works as part of the team or in a team, even if they're not as a team in a coaching session, but where they review all the clients as a team. So, for example, every Monday we have a call where we review every client, where they stand, what their challenges are, and we help each other, because everybody has a different angle of viewing that person. And somebody's more like, let's say, a predisposition for a woman coach would be, they would sense much deeper, and they would see much, like almost 4K to 8K from a place of here and now, um, tactical stuff about the person's life. Whereas men's energy, and then Maxim's and my souls have architect status. We look at a person not from a place of here and now. We look possibilities of unfolding, which is very different. Because as
Mhm.
soon as Mitch changes, let's say we chat, and I look at you from here and now at your timeline, and then after this call something clicks in, your timeline has changed.
Yeah.
So there's just so much detail to this stuff that all of us are starting to do on this planet.
Beautiful. And this whole hour and a half began with, when delivering information, what makes an
Yep.
avatar or soul ready to receive or hear it? We went
Yeah.
down some crazy rabbit holes there, which is amazing. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that's it for this week. That's all I got. But looking forward to the conversation next week, and I'm looking forward to just even taking this conversation and then seeing where where do I start unpacking my own life moving forward as I'm trying to get a sense of, especially for me, getting a sense of like intuition and what is what is my feeling truth versus what is my false thinking, right? So
Well, and you have now quite a few great instruments, so
yeah,
I'm excited to observe the stuff that is unfolding in your life,
yeah,
and you're like making great strides.
good stuff. All right, man.
Okay.
Well, next week, same time, same channel.